in flaming
down in flames. Yeah, we're going down with the ship.
Go down with the ship. End it today. This is the last episode that we're gonna make it. And
there you go.
We're gonna go out. We're gonna go out with a bang. We're gonna talk about the good stuff, none of the bad stuff, and I don't know.
It's the way it's got to be.
Well, if the ship's going down, might as well go down.
Yeah.
No, I know. It's been a.
It's been a week,
dude. It's been a week. It has been. Not just like
you came into the pre-show hot, so it's definitely been a week.
So look, I watched the show. I watched the show. I watched the parkour of the show because that was apparently a necessity in there. Everybody was watching the freaking show. Okay?
You know what I was doing while that was happening? So because I can't comment directly.
Or were you using the phone to grab phones?
So I set up a dual monitor display. I've got a 4K art monitor and I've got a really ultra wide gaming monitor.
You mentioned it on Monday on the podcast.
And I'm trying to set up a better. I'm trying to organize a better setup so that I can make my laptop, the laptop that's coming in, the Surface. I want to make that like the center screen for a triple display setup.
Yeah, like I have a triple.
And hopefully just unplug all of my workstation stuff under my desk and have it all go into hubs that go into the laptop. So in moving the ultra wide, because how I have it set up is that there's the nice camera right here, and the art monitor swings in and blocks the camera when I'm not using it. So the two monitors are side by side.
Makes sense.
I have not been able to move the ultra wide because I had it installed on a desk arm that was already rocked 90 degrees.
Oh, okay.
So I had to take everything apart, take the monitor down to swivel this monitor arm just so I could reposition the ultra wide, and that took the entire Apple keynote. I didn't watch a lick of it. I had to read up on like, this is like the big announcements. And the more I read on what the big announcements were, I was like, how did this possibly take 2 hours to announce?
There was an hour entirely dedicated to Apple Intelligence. Like what they did is I'm
so mad that the joke that people were making about AI was, imagine if Apple called it Apple Intelligence. And then that was actually legit. That's actually what they did.
Well, because again, remember, Apple has to invent it for it to truly exist.
Yeah.
And if it didn't invent it, then OpenAI.
I'm so happy that Apple finally invented OpenAI. I'm so glad that they invented it.
I've been worried. I've been really worried for Chad, man. I've always worried about him. I really felt like he's not really doing well, and I felt like if Apple didn't step in and have them on the iPhone, like I don't think they would have survived.
So all snarky aside, and you came in hot, so I want to shut up for a minute because you have thoughts. Hey everybody, welcome to a tech podcast. We're gonna jump right in. We're hitting the ground running. We're not doing this rambling thing where we like waste time. TK has feels, and we're going to explore them.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off by saying, and if you guys can just let me know what you guys think seriously. Okay, watching the show, I understand. Again, the everybody just. I don't want to say the word drink the freaking Kool-Aid, but it is drinking the Kool-Aid. And realizing that, okay, great. Now Apple finally caught up to Android in many ways. And we're able to position icons where we want them. We can actually theme icons in there. We can mirror our phone's display onto our laptop. And I'm like, whoa. Dude. Like, I've never seen anybody do this. Like, I don't think Realme ever did it. I don't think Oppo did it.
No.
I don't think OnePlus did it.
Samsung, Motorola. No one has ever done anything like this in the history of smartphones.
So where I feel like the overly excitement jumping out of your body kind of thing, saying like, oh my God, this is the best thing. Like, okay, look, I get it. You're feeding your base. You're feeding into the, I don't know what it is, but it just, to me, it was a frustrating position to see like and it's a weird way to say this, but and announcements like these, this is where who uses iPhones and who uses Android. Yeah. This is how you know the reality. The people that are over jumping out and all of that stuff, they're iPhone users. And I'm not trying to make it like camp A, camp B. I'm just being a frank situation. Is I'm an Android user. I use Android every single day. And if I jump from one phone to another, it's an Android to an Android. And I have many things. And so when I was watching the show, all I saw was Apple basically saying, so what did Android do for the last 5, 6, 7, 10 years? Okay. So I need you to put all of that in there. And we're going to call it Apple Intelligence when we start putting some of that AI, because I don't think people like ChatGPT 4.0 because that just doesn't roll off the tongue. But Apple Intelligence makes more sense. So when I at the end of the show, I was very. Okay, so.
Well, let's compartmentalize. Let's go by bit by bit. We were talking about iPhone.
Oh man!
It seems to me that the only way to iterate and improve the iPhone is to make it more like Android.
Oh no, they have to. They have to, because
no, but hold on, because the thing that I feel justifies your nerd rage, because it's definitely been the geeky outrage issue on my part, and I feel it's really coming to a head for a lot of us right now. Mm-hmm. We've been pointing out since the early days of Android that yes, iOS typically has been a little sleeker and a little prettier with things like bouncy animations.
Yeah.
But Android, especially piggybacking off of like BlackBerry OS and Windows Mobile and Symbian, Android was an OS that was a little uglier for most of its existence, but was far more functional. And to our faces, techies keep telling us, but people don't care about those features until the iPhone gets them, and then suddenly those features are important. And I'm really tired of my Threads timeline now full of people writing these hack articles like, there are even fewer reasons for you to keep your Android. But those are the exact same people who have been telling me that all the reasons that I like my Android don't matter to iPhone users. And they don't matter, and those features are not important, and if they were important, then Apple would have done something with them. And it's always, you can always move the goalposts to arrive at the conclusion that whatever Apple does is correct. Exactly. If Apple doesn't want you to organize your home screens, Apple has a good reason for that. Think of all the people that would have messy home screens. So it's really better if you can't do it. And now that you can organize your home screens, well, Apple saw that you needed to be able to organize because more people have more apps. So it's all, they can always make Apple correct, regardless of the evidence and regardless of the timeline and regardless of the points that people bring up. Like, hey, if you cared about any of this stuff, you should have been on an Android. If you think any of this stuff is cool, you've missed out on years of enjoying that kind of functionality and those kinds of features because you've opted for one label on the back of your phone. And that is the story that never breaks through, is this stuff did matter. It always has mattered, and people would have liked it. But you've convinced them that it was more important to be on the winning team than get a device that really better fit your needs,
or at least the device that you could truly make your own. That was really the biggest thing that I got.
But that never mattered before, TK.
No, and I think
that was never important. Nobody cared about that. But now people do care about it because Apple invented it.
That's true. And we have to give them credit when credit is due. Invention is always a hard thing to do, and they have a lot of good engineers that don't know how to copy things from other things. They have to invent them every single time. No, seriously. Sure. I mean, come on, Apple Intelligence. I think.
Well, did you?
A whole 2 seconds.
Well, I want to stick with iPhone for just one more second.
No,
did you see? I think it was Ars Technica that did a list of all of the Sherlocked apps.
No, I didn't.
Okay. So I don't want to. We don't.
A blackout at some point for
we don't.
The timeline of things.
It just passed out. Oh, too much Apple. Oh.
Dude, I just logged off the entire social thing. So
the thing is, it's not just ripping off Android. There was a whole list. So there was I believe it was a search feature a long time ago that Apple invented this new search feature called Sherlock, which was just a complete ripoff of a third-party app called Watson. That was a search
I
feature that
remember
someone else had
Watson.
developed.
Yeah. Okay.
So apparently, iOS 18 just has a whole series of these feature improvements and these OS level improvements are just Apple displacing apps that already exist on the iPhone
absolutely.
and on Mac OS. And like that this year, a major part of the evolution of iOS is coming from, well, they just kind of stole this idea from another app developer that had made something, and then they just incorporated it themselves. And you're like, this is exactly what the DOJ case is about. If Apple can't somehow buy that company because it looks weird if they're buying up all their competition, they can just rip off the functionality.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? Are you going to stop using your iPhone? Well, it doesn't matter because you're not a developer making that app, so it's not going to bother you, and your iPhone got better for free.
But they also, I would say, conveniently omitted the fact that not all of the AI functionalities are coming to every single iPhone.
Well, now let's switch up. Let's talk about Apple
iPhone
Intelligence, because this is
the iPhone itself. I'll say this: the last thing I want to touch on the iPhone is the fact, obviously, no mention of RCS. It was in the charts. You could see it. It's a bubble.
Tiniest little bubble. Yeah.
They're not even they didn't even try to say we invented RCS. I mean, I was expecting.
It's going to be hilarious. I know people who are now going to be shocked when Android photos look better.
Yeah, they were like, what?
Whoa, your camera got so much better.
The conversation is going to always be like, dude, did you upgrade your phone? Did you get an iPhone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to be. And everybody will be like, nah, dude, I've been using the same phone.
This is what they've always looked like.
Yeah. It's always,
I've had to show like parents of my daughter's friends.
Yeah.
I took a photo of this cute moment between my daughter and your daughter, and they were playing, and isn't this adorable? I can't send it to you. I mean, if I send you the photo, Apple is going to destroy the photo. So if you can't give me an email address, then
horrible photographer. Like I don't know.
So we were chatting out. There's like a little crew of friends that they all have Roblox accounts and they hang out on Roblox. They don't even play games. It's just their like social media platform. It's a bunch of 8 to 10-year-olds. And like, okay, I don't know that my daughter's ready for that.
No. Who goes to the local coffee shop? People hang out in virtual. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but it was hilarious because one of the parents who wanted to join this little crew, she's got a Pixel. And her son, I think, they only have like a little Fire tablet for him. The conversation that ensued on, well, but how can you FaceTime? We don't have iPads or iPhones. Oh, well, but maybe if I send you an invite, you can open up a browser. And then she stops him and you're like, you can install the Google Meet app and we can video call that way. And they're like, oh, I don't know if that'll work.
Yeah,
you're like,
because Google doesn't work.
All right.
We all know that.
And so it's hilarious though, because at some point there's like a little kernel, there's like a little seed that gets planted is Apple is preventing me from facilitating this conversation. It's the Apple side of this that is stopping me from setting up what should be a pretty easy exchange of information.
We should be able to freely exchange. Conversations between people should be irrelevant, and it should be basically transparent to whatever device you're using, as it used to be before.
I was like, I guess we'll go back to Skype. No, we're not doing that. I just it's hilarious how awful this has become.
This is very much a U.S. problem, not an international problem, because the moment you step outside of the U.S., WhatsApp takes over. There is no issue between you, Android and iOS outside of the U.S. I mean, there's still the whole, obviously, iPhones are better or whatever, and all that whole. But the RCS function was the only thing that I really wanted to make sure that it was it. It wasn't there. We knew it was coming. We didn't hear a lot. Then we find out that although they are complying with the RCS requirement, they're not necessarily giving it all the bells and whistles.
Nah.
Like you can't schedule messages to non-iMessage because apparently that needs.
And I think you also it's also going to mess with like groups functionality where you can't easily I'm sure
they're still going to mess that up. They're not going to let it.
It's all going to be broken.
Yeah. They'll be like we'll configure. We'll let them send good pictures, but it's going to be a horrible experience, nonetheless.
And I would not be surprised if in malicious compliance, like there's a setting for data saving. that's on by default, so that the images still get sent in garbage quality, and you would have to know to go into your settings, probably under a different subheading, to get into a data protection option that then opens up higher quality. Apple has now been so maliciously compliant with regulators and has been thumbing their nose at the DOJ and the EU for the better part of 2 years. I wouldn't be shocked if, yes, the message is technically sent over RCS, but you don't want to waste your data on those terrible Android photos, so let us pre-compress them for you so you'll have less data and better battery life, and it'll take up less storage. Because we really care about the iPhone user experience, and it's all going to be this game, this constant, unending game of incredible pettiness that has become the Apple ecosystem. It's awful. Like, we can sit here and just like, oh, but it works better on the iPhone. Well, then get after the developer. Don't sit there and say like, I have to change my entire ecosystem for one feature to work a little bit better in an app because that developer doesn't want to support Android better. Stop using that app. Like, if you're sharing photos and you're like, oh, I hate the photo quality, I'm back on Flickr. Guess what works really good on Flickr? Sharing photos. Guess what doesn't work well on Instagram anymore? Sharing photos.
Well, because they don't know. No. Instagram is a real format, is a real platform now. Everything is video. Like, literally, the picture post. I mean, heck, even TikTok stuff, pictures in there just to basically make it so that a compatibility.
I can't. I just can't. I can't. And also, you know, like getting around that too is like when I've been sharing reels on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like I'll shoot a short for YouTube, and like whatever. I hate playing this game so much, but it's like it defines our jobs. I've been uploading those videos through web browsers to Instagram. And wouldn't you know it, geez, the compression is so much better, and the hit that you take on image quality is so much less, and the videos look great. If I do the exact same thing through the Instagram app, yeah, it's going to look like garbage. Oh, it's an Android. No, don't play that game. Yeah. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
Well, I mean, but then even... Yeah, Instagram is a whole nother ball of wax, and just so many.
But I'm sorry, my voice is on the mend, and I'm doing a little bit better this week than last week. But I probably don't want to burn us out, so I do want to get us back on. I would like to, before we leave iPhone, we do need to talk about Apple Intelligence, and this is our segue. I'm announcing the segue. How can we possibly trust that Apple will live up to their software support commitments? They promised 5 years of software updates to the iPhone, but the iPhone 15 is already not going to get Apple Intelligence. So that obviously means that Apple can't be trusted. They're just going to cancel their commitment whenever they feel like it. Well, they cancel so many things that I don't see how we could possibly trust them. You know what we should do is make like a website that's like Apple's graveyard, you know, of canceled projects like AirPower and their electric car initiative.
AirPower was amazing, man. And the electric car, it was,
you know, so
but amazing until they canceled the team.
It's not going to work though. So if you bought a brand new iPhone 15, you're not going to get Apple Intelligence.
iPhone, they have to be Pro and Pro Max. No, but those are the.
There's no way we can trust them. You can't trust them to live up to their software support. I'm obviously trying to get at this is how Gemini was handled.
Yeah. No, and we all remember the conversation how Bard was, introduced, and then the assistant who's in there, and then now the assistant.
No. I mean specifically, Gemini Nano was announced. Yeah. The Pixel 8 was not going to support it, and what were the first headlines that we saw? Google is already failing at their commitment to support the Pixel 8 for 7 years. I think that was an Android Police headline.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So where are the headlines about how we can't trust Apple to live up to their 5 years of software support commitment if they're not going to include Apple Intelligence?
Oh, no, Okay, so
They've already failed, just like Google did. If that's Google failing, then this is exactly the same thing.
It is. It is. And I'm not taking away from the shenanigans of eye-catching, headlines and just to get conversations and clicks going on. Specifically, the fact that obviously, Google literally just dropped the Gemini Nano on the 8 and the 8A as part of the feature drop that just happened. If you have a Pixel, make sure you update your devices. If you have the 8, 8 Pro, or
mine hasn't updated yet.
Oh no, ours will.
Yeah, I know.
At the end of July, we'll be in July before we get June. I'm not even. I stopped. It just never worked.
If they want to sound TeamPixel to be able to talk about their updates, I don't want to have to flash ROMs to get there.
The easier way, Juan, would be just easy. Just take a quick flight to New York, man. They seem to drop it in New York.
Right.
You just have to stand in front of a coffee store and just sit see it.
If you look at the map, we're going from right to left. There you go. There's your problem. Yeah. So I posted a quip, very much like what I just did in this little bit here on Threads. And let me tell you, the Apple fans on Threads are incredibly aggressive. That they came out of the woodwork to correct how I was thinking. And it's great because Apple fans on Threads were completely correct. Of course, it is not an issue, and we shouldn't question whether or not a company is going to support a product based on one software feature like getting a better AI assistant. And as antagonistic and as hateful as the Apple fans on Threads are, they were correct. They played right into my bait post, and no one seemed to get the irony or the joke. I posted the exact same thing on Mastodon, and nobody fell for it. Everybody knew what I was up to. And someone commented directly, like, oh, you're doing this like the Gemini thing. And you're like, yes! Because there is an inequity in how we discuss technology products online. So I made a video about it, and the original post didn't blow up until I explained what I was doing. And then it was even angrier Apple fans because their arguments were right. There's no snark there. I'm not making fun of the Apple fans and the Apple users. I am pointing out how absolutely lopsidedly biased the tech outlets, the tech reporters are. That they'll make something a problem for Google, but then the exact same thing for Apple is totally reasonable. But when they found out that I had used their arguments that could also in some way tangentially defend a Google product, they were livid. They were so much more upset. It was like, it was more important for them to hate on Android users than it was to be right about defending the iPhone. And that's the last couple days that I've had on social media. So I'm a bit keyed up just on the perception of how crap this all is and how incredibly toxic Apple has become as a force in our industry with these types of marketing shenanigans, ripping off good ideas from other platforms, ripping off good ideas from their own app developers, and increasingly being able to manipulate other platforms and services to their own end, which again, that kind of caps me off. I'd love to hear your thoughts about Apple Intelligence now so that I can shut up for just a second.
I mean, look, so I don't understand the... Okay, I'll say this. I want to start off, I'm not going to try to sound like I'm just negative, trying to go negative on everything. I will say, if there is a way to integrate any type of system, any type of ecosystem, Apple is the company to do it because they have such control over their system. And I will give them that much credit. But I will also take away from the credit that I'm giving there primarily because of the fact of what they're doing and what they're promising, because they're giving you that facade of security with all of this data. This is, okay, so Apple Intelligence, for all intents and purposes, is AI, but it's their flavor of what they want to do with AI by incorporating and deep connecting OpenAI into their ecosystem. But then they're also saying that they're going to keep it anonymous. It's basically, connecting to the servers and submitting queries are going to stay anonymous, where the user's data is not going to be shared on ChatGPT. It's not going to be on the server the way ChatGPT works right now. Anything you submit to request, and even in Gemini, when you put in a request, you upload data into it. It basically, you're feeding the model. You're helping it grow better or be better by providing it. So if you've uploaded the document, a PDF, if you're doing something with an NDA document, never upload that to any kind of AI tool. You might as well just post it on the internet, because that's exactly where it is. And we've seen actually, I want to say, I can't remember. I don't want to say it was Moto, but it was somebody's like design or hardware specs or something like that.
No. Are you talking about the Samsung Silicon team?
Oh yeah. Sorry, it was the Samsung Silicon.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, they were using, I believe it was ChatGPT for internal briefs, and then all of this proprietary data, all of this proprietary Samsung information was now just a part of the ChatGPT model.
But this is where I'm very concerned in the way the integration of all of these tools are done at the basically they're being put at the kernel level. This is no longer an app that you interact with. This is a full function of what they're trying to do. And I get what they're trying to do with the Pro Series, it's going to get a little bit hairy on my side, because if I don't forget it correctly, when the iPhone 18, when the next generation of the iPhones come out, the high processing power of the current Pro Series is going to the low end, whatever the next generation is, the 16, I think, isn't it? I think it's 16 plus. So in theory, the next generation of iPhones all should support Apple Intelligence, if that is a true statement. Of course, it's not. It's going to be gimped. It's going to be, again, like the better sensors on the Pro Max. But what frustrates me the most is Apple isn't saying that they're building their own servers. The data isn't sitting in a specific server base. I mean, there's some going to be, part of it is going to be on device, some of it is going to be online. And they're going to try to make that line to be very clear for people to know what they're sending online, what they're not sending online. And this is just going to get it's so many opportunities for mishandling of information, tracking data and aggregating data out of users without even letting them know. Again, following.
Yeah, for all of the goodwill that Apple generates.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's always that, watch this hand and then the other hand is doing something else. You just got to be very, very weary of how.
Well, because I feel like they're walking into this, and I think I've got a pretty good handle on what some of these core components are going to do, and it's not that exciting, because when you do on-device stuff, it's the stuff that we've already been playing with in Android land for a while. It's the evolution of your keyboard. It's the ability to condense information or summarize information. That kind of stuff is pretty low level, and the iPhone does not have enough. Even the iPhone Pro now does not have enough RAM to do extraordinarily new things with language learning models.
That's where it's
so my issue, and to kind of piggyback on what you were saying there, my issue with Apple now is they're not doing a better job of educating their consumers as to what the differences are. In fact, they are now muddying the waters even more. I've not been happy with Google. I've really not been happy with Microsoft. What is cloud? What is on device? I've been more impressed with companies like OnePlus, just because they don't have a cloud AI initiative, so everything they're doing is pretty much on device. This is yet another escalation of consumer confusion, blurring the lines between what's going on
Apple
with this
magic,
stuff.
Man. It's Apple magic. Just keep in mind, Apple magic. Everything magic, everything happens, everything magically will go on, and it'll go. No, this is the AI generation, the emoji generation, all of those things that require large language models that are not going to be built into your device are all pulling on, like what Midjourney does, creating content out of things that are available online. Like I want a unicorn emoji with clouds background. Like, again, that's no different than going into Midjourney and trying to put in, or even going to any of the other AI tools that are on there. And Apple is single-handedly shutting all these companies down by just taking their. I want to say they're taking their IP. They took the concept, they put it in. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden now, all of these companies are like, crap. I guess we got to go find a new job tomorrow, because ChatGPT is the de facto one, and Gemini is not getting it, because Gemini is only going to be Nano right now is only on Pixel and Samsung devices. That's it.
Yeah.
and potential. I'll say this.
It'll eventually
No,
show up on.
Oppo did mention during the AI phone conference that I was at that they are working with Google to try to bring Gemini Nano on devices. Obviously, not all devices, but in some cases, they're going to be able to bring that model over. They are working with them. But again, this is going back to Android Wear or Wear OS, or the way we have Wear now so badly disseminated into so many systems, because again, Google and Samsung being together for so long, and everything kind of works better on Samsung. This is the weirdest relationship where the consumers are being left like out just to basically figure out things, and if they don't, again, just believe then the magic will happen.
Yeah.
Apple does it better. Everything works better on Apple, and in the whole integration with how it works on your PC, because this is also coming to PCs, by the way. Apple Intelligence is not limited to their A series processors. It's also going to their M series processors. So the tablets, obviously the iPad, but actually it's that was the one thing I will say. They're supporting it all the way to the M1. So my M1 Mac that we're talking on right now, at some point when I get the next version of the operating system, will have some type of Apple Intelligence built into it.
Sure.
So at some point, this is like so the bubble on AI at some point is going to, and when I say bubble, I don't mean AI is going to disappear. I think AI, for the most part,
but this investor positioning of AI is absolutely going to crumble. And I feel like I can't believe that we're sitting here and entertaining these conversations right now when there is no falsifiable or verifiable business model attached to cloud data center AI in the consumer space. What the value of AI is? What is the value of a chat GPT integration? According to Apple, we'll pay you in exposure. Microsoft has been dumping billions of dollars into OpenAI, and Sam Altman walked over to Apple and said, I'll give you my product for free. And you're like, what is going on? So if I were an executive at Microsoft, because they were not, apparently the rumors are Microsoft execs were not happy about this chat GPT integration on the iPhone. Well, yeah, because Microsoft has been funneling billions of dollars into this company, and they've been using Microsoft services and data centers. Microsoft was responsible for bringing Sam Altman back into the company when the board tried to out him, and Microsoft gets a cut of the revenue generated by OpenAI. What a great deal.
There was no talk of where the revenue.
What a great deal. That's what an awesome deal. Now that Apple really isn't going to be paying for OpenAI on the iPhone.
So hear me out.
Microsoft gets a cut of nothing.
There you go. You got a piece of air. Now
zero.
No. I actually
divide by zero.
I think Apple's releasing right now the initial phase of what OpenAI is going to be. What the Apple Intelligence is going to be called. On device. But keep in mind, Apple is known for services. Apple is known for all of their extra, premium apps and all of this. And I really feel like a certain core functions of these AI tools are going to be available on the Pro and Pro Max. But the advanced version of them, the ones that make it more functional, kind of like how you could use ChatGPT anytime you want without having to pay for it. The free model is just hindered by slowdown, availability of data, depending on how many people are on it, and also functionalities. So the reality is, at some point or another, Apple is going to turn money on this. This is purely getting it through the door with, hey, try a sample type of a thing, because that's how we get people in. We give it to them for free at the beginning, and then when they're hooked on it, we start charging them. Hence, again, a la Google, where old Gemini is coming in with, if you want to have more advanced stuff, you have to kind of go into the next level and pay $20 a month. At the end of the day, all of this is about money. Okay, what Apple is trying to do is they're leveraging who they believe is the better model. They went with OpenAI. They didn't want to go. They don't. Want to be
but I need it to kind of ring clear. Yeah, Microsoft is looking at this deal. They're investing incredible amounts of money and electricity and water into data centers. They're trying to find countries on the world that won't mind the local governments won't mind Microsoft pumping incredible amounts of pollution into the air just so the country can make a little bit more money, or I don't know, however a tax break and zoning deal might work.
And they get nothing.
Google paid Apple upwards of $20 billion a year, both in upfront payments and in back end, to be the default search engine in Safari and to be the backbone of Siri. OpenAI is getting nothing. There is no $20 billion a year to be the first. You've got Tim Cook out there saying, oh, well, we're Apple, so we're going with the best. And ChatGPT, they're ahead of the curve. They're giving users the best, and iPhone users deserve the best. And what is the best worth? $1 billion a year? 5, 10? There's no money being exchanged. Search is worth $20 billion a year to Google to be the default on the iPhone.
Yeah.
AI is worth exposure.
And I think that's what they're doing. They're getting exposure. It's purely getting understanding that what you're getting out of the iPhone, getting it on in their mind, they're looking at it. It's an amazing user base to tap into and allow them to understand that what we can do and what they can do on their devices, and that we could do even more by them going straight into the ChatGPT app and interacting with them. Remember, they didn't bring the voice assistant, the voice interaction to the AI functionality. That's still going to go through Siri. They're not bringing in the ChatGPT front end UI and interface application into the conversation. That's still going to have to be a paid app. So if you just play it by numbers, let's just say 10%, okay, 5% of all iPhone users that get Apple Intelligence convert over as customers to OpenAI, they still make money. It's an indirect way. You're right. It's not money being put on table as we're doing the exchange.
That's the other BS though. There is no ChatGPT app for Windows. There's Copilot.
There's Copilot,
but there is no right. But that's what I mean is like we're playing a shell game. Eventually, this investment in infrastructure is going to net what? $10 a month subscriptions? Is that what we're building hundreds of billions of dollars of data centers for?
It's okay. So again, we're looking at it. So from a financial standpoint, I think it doesn't pay off at this point, but I think it's in the long run. I think they're playing the long run game, right? If in the sense of usabilities and user base and access.
Right, but we've said the same thing about Uber, and we've said the same thing about.
Absolutely. No. Uber is a perfect example. Uber and Lyft and some of the other applications, absolutely. They always want to be the de facto. They want to be the default.
Right.
But what I'm trying to say is Google has a monopoly on Pixel and Samsung. In the near future, they may be able to get on other Android devices. They only have access to those. They're not going to bring Gemini Nano to the iPhone. That's just not going to be a conversation. So Apple chose to go with OpenAI's benefit in this conversation is them being the default option of AI on iPhones.
Right.
So the exposure in the long run, yeah, you're right. It may not be the amount of money that you're thinking about it overall, but keep in mind, I kid you not, I think there has to be a certain way to limit the impact on the OpenAI servers. We already deal with those issues right now with just the way it is on its own, where if you go in with the free version and it's busy, you're you know what I mean?
But
that's going to happen on iPhone.
That's a very nice sentiment, but the way that you limit the downtime on using a data center AI is to build more data centers.
Yes, or gatekeep the features.
They're already doing that.
No, OpenAI.
You already have tokens and you already pay for those experiences. And that's before iPhone users are going to start approaching this at any kind of scale. They're already having issues fulfilling the sort of tepid user interest in AI.
No conversations have been said about opening new servers, with the data centers, the ability of handling the capacity of when iOS.
And so this is also where we go back. We were down in San Diego when it was announced that Apple was also going to be investing in a partnership with Google for some of their Gemini infrastructure. So again, it's like there is no business model there. No. It is we are trying to treat this like we're startups, But the only companies that can compete are the companies that can invest hundreds of billions of dollars a year in data centers. So it's Microsoft, it's Google,
It's Amazon.
it's Amazon, it's Meta.
Yeah.
You don't. We're trying to treat this like it's this plucky, like disruptive technology, but you can't build a startup off of that.
No.
And you can only compete if you can afford hundreds of billions of dollars in infrastructure yearly
And
to iterate and improve on these models.
Even to maintain, I'm not even going there. I'm arguing, I think the maintenance of the current load and the new number of users that are going to come in with iPhone users that are going to start jumping and hitting those servers, that's where things are going to start crumbling.
So this is where I'm bringing up other like startup disruptive technologies,
the
platforms like Uber tried to disrupt the taxi industry, and I think they did
in many ways,
but they disrupted it and then kind of became a worse version. Streaming services came in with investor cash with 0% interest rates, disrupted cable TV, but then once all that investor runway cash disappeared, well, to be profitable, we've got to be kind of worse than cable TV sometimes. So like the same thing is going to happen with AI, where it's like you're totally right. In a short-term conversation, you try to get people to think that it's cool. You try to impress them with these services, get them hooked on something that is AI that they'll want to pay for. But then once that hits its scale, the timeline to impoopification is going to be radically fast before you start having to squeeze your end users, your paying customers, anything that might be additional revenue, selling off all their data, incorporating ads, whatever it's going to be.
Exactly. Something's going to have to give money. And we're just not seeing it now because, again, we're only seeing the pretty picture. Apple Vision Pro, it's the best thing since sliced bread because it's the best, VR, AR headset. But, the reality of the matter is, it's a heavy piece of hardware. It's expensive. It's a developer piece of hardware that everybody keeps talking about, like as if it's an actual consumer hardware. So the reality is, this is the game that I feel like you always go and we have all the, like the pizzazz, the wow factors, the jazz hands. Look at my, don't look at what's happening behind me. Just keep looking here. So those are the things that are going to have to unfold. And I think as time goes on, right now we're in beta. Everybody's playing with the beta. They're not playing with the final version. So the reality is somehow, somewhere, money's going to have to be made. But I have a feeling, like you were saying at the beginning, Microsoft's going to get shafted at the end of this because it's not going to be a direct transaction into OpenAI. It isn't going to be where we're paying OpenAI X amount of dollars every year to use their service or their service. It's going to be more we're giving their service for free, but we're making money off of the other things. So I don't know. It just makes it hard.
I don't even know that is a reasonable conclusion to this.
It's one
rollout.
It to me, when I was listening to it, it was hard for me not to see beyond the line.
This feels like such another investor bait, rug pull, short-term gain strategy. And it's like we're going to try and keep all these balls in the air.
Everybody's using
as long as we can.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
And again, Apple's stock value went up like $40 billion after completing the presentation because they said Apple Intelligence a whole bunch of times.
Yeah.
But there is no sexy, consistent application of the server side of this that's going to keep a large enough population paying for it to offset the incredible investment in infrastructure that it requires.
Yep.
And
especially for privacy, this is the biggest thing that I'm worried about. The way they presented privacy of everything is kept on device. You're not going to have to share your information. We're not, it's going to be encrypted on device. And the only time it's shared, because this is where they kind of went back and forth. First, they said it was on device. It's going to be run on device. But if you try to submit a request to a server base, part of that encrypted system will actually get sent over to that server for the data point that you're trying to pull from. But then they also said that it would be non-kept on the server. So therefore, they're not really sharing it with ChatGPT. But for the interaction to happen, they have to share. There's no anonymity in this. If you're asking what X plus Y plus, N equals to, that entire equation has to go from your system to the chats, to OpenAI servers, hit that, get the processing, and come back. And for all intents and purposes, we're saying that OpenAI is going to delete that entire record out of their system once this is done because it's coming from an iPhone. So we're making a specific rule now, an exception to the rule that something that hits their server is
which OpenAI and Sam Altman have been nothing but completely above board on how
totally.
all of their models have been trained.
I totally trust that that's how it's going to be.
I feel like
No.
this is yet another situation that to me kind of resembles cryptocurrencies and blockchains and NFTs.
NFTs. Yeah,
we kept trying to sell something sexy and exciting and disruptive, but really,
it has potential.
No, it can't. So like we've proven there is no potential. The point I'm trying to make is there is something there is something practical about a shared ledger that is distributed amongst numerous systems.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To validate the information on the ledger.
Yeah. I'm with you on crypto. Sorry.
That is cool.
Yeah.
But it's also mundane and boring. There is no sexy disruption to a database that we all verified together.
Yeah, I know.
That's all this is. But we wrap it up in cryptocurrencies and non-fungible tokens, and we obscure it through all of this vernacular that makes non-techie people feel like either I'm dumb or there could be something really interesting here because look at all of this terminology that's being thrown at me.
Look how many
and
people
AI is following. AI is following the same business model. There is something foundationally practical about having a little chip in my phone that can scan through language and kind of condense it. If I have a recording on my phone and I'm already doing speech to text locally on that device and it doesn't have to go up to a server, I'd be fine if my phone sat for a couple minutes, scanned through all that text, and gave me some bullet points.
Yeah,
I believe that's a perfectly reasonable use of my phone's battery life with the little chip in my phone.
It's doing work for me that I wanted it to do. Exactly.
But that's on my device.
Yeah.
That's not going up to a server where I need to pay a company $10 a month to have that kind of capability.
Or you're sharing your data with them, and that's how we aggregate.
All we needed to do was have the low-level series of data centers to train up those models that could then live on our phones. But that's not what Google and Microsoft and Facebook are trying to do. They're trying to convince us that all of this processing has to happen in the cloud and that we have to pay for it monthly.
To train their models. It's absolutely, this is no different than Adobe trying to basically say, everything that my applications touches is mine. No, this is exactly the same thing. Meta's trying to do the exact same thing. They all want to build up their models. They all want to improve it, but they need user data. Musk did it weirdly in a better way, and I'm not going to say it's the right way, but it's in a way where you have to buy into share data with him. You have to pay $8,000, $10,000, or $12,000 for full self-driving, and then be a beta tester for 2 to 3 years for them to build their system. But it's based on the fact that you, as a buyer, knew you were buying into it. You have the vehicle, you have the hardware, and you want your car to do better. And I'm going to be attesting it to say, the car, the full self-driving with all the updates that have been coming through, phenomenon. It is absolutely like 100% better than what it was when I first got my car in 21. Absolutely. But you walk into that, you know you're contributing to it. Right now, what Adobe's trying to do, forcing companies, forcing people that use their products under NDAs and pre-release and private studios and all of that, they're forcing their data to be used in a model. It's all about data. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to who is aggregating your data, who is selling it to who's building from it, who's benefiting from it. And we're just not seeing it right now because at the end, again, we get the whole, I keep wanting to say freaking Apple magic, but in reality, look at the hand and don't look at what's happening on the other side. You're looking at the
pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're seeing Tim, we're seeing the presentation, and when the iPhone 16 comes out, everybody's going to be ohing and ahhing and all of that good stuff. Look, I'm not going to deny the fact that they missed one. And I feel like Apple, if you're listening to this, I feel like you missed an important one that I feel like was invented even earlier than mirroring my phone to my display on my PC. Dude, what's up with the dual apps? When are you going to invent split screen? because you missed that.
Oh,
You hit
yeah,
everything else. That was the one thing I was
that's
like,
not a thing.
Like, so running two apps on at once is still not a thing you could do, because
No.
like,
Well, TK, I don't even understand why you would want that feature. No one cares about that feature, and no one
nobody
wants
cares.
it.
That's true.
It's
Because
just
Apple
one of
hasn't
those
invented
Android
that.
nerd things. And then in iOS 19, when only the Pro Max gets that feature back, because we did try to flirt with some kind of like multitasking in like jailbroken iPhones and stuff, then it'll matter.
Yeah.
But right now, no, it doesn't matter because only Android nerds care
So
about that.
okay, I take that back. Maybe Apple didn't miss it. They just didn't care enough about it. Not a problem.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's how I feel. No, look, a lot of the things they brought in, I will say, I'm happy to see that iPhone users can now at least customize their experiences. They can finally put their icons where they wanted them, because I know many iPhone users that love the ecosystem, but still were very frustrated with this. So there is some benefit there, and I don't want to make it sound like, Tika just being snarky. Because
I'd actually like us to kind of detour for just a second.
Sure.
I don't want to completely burn my voice out again tonight, but we got 2 breaking news bits today. Well, actually, no, I think one was yesterday. One might have been yesterday. Chrome OS is basically going to be morphed into more of an Android-style platform to help improve Chrome OS. And I don't know about you, but did you feel a burning, intense rage that Google has waited this long to start merging Android and Chrome OS? Because nerds like us have been screaming for this for years, and people keep telling us that it can't happen, or it's not a good idea, or you need to have separate platforms or something like that. I met with
startups at CES that were trying to make this happen. They were trying to build a Chrome OS interface, a desktop experience on top of Android. Whenever you plugged in an external display, you got Chrome OS. No, dude. Okay, this has been the most backwards process of putting things together, and partially is because the way Google operates. They operate in such a siloed environment. Teams are very different, and they very much just don't talk to each other. But then out of just the blue, there, Chrome OS starts supporting Android apps. Okay, great. That's a good move. What about the other way around, dude? How about we get that communication back and forth?
No, it can't happen. Now, don't get me wrong.
It just
an inexpensive Chromebook. An inexpensive Chromebook is an order of magnitude less powerful than a 2-year-old premium phone.
Yeah, but it can't handle Chrome.
We're still putting out Chromebooks that are less powerful than Galaxy S10s.
Dude,
but there's no possible way we could bring more of the Chrome experience to Android, because you need a full computer to do that, even if the full computer is less powerful than a Galaxy S10.
This is it's been my
perish the thought.
We've had desktop mode since Android 10. We've had that desktop experience, some type of a desktop mode inside of Android since Android 10. It has not been developed. It has not been cared for. And the only thing we said, and the only thing that could have fixed this entire thing, is bring the existing Chrome OS that you have. Let it run as a
that interface.
Is already
would work so well. Yeah,
that's all we need. Give us everything run inside of a Chrome tab.
So they're starting the process, and apparently it's going to take years before the underlying architecture is really going to transition over. And
Juan,
we've already seen
code they have to edit for this.
Oh man, 10, at least 10 lines of code.
They have to check every single 1 and 0 manually.
Because apparently AI was not up to the job of writing that code for them. You've got to do it right.
Gemini's not there, and there's not enough tokens in Gemini at this point. No.
So I had to bring that up. We've already seen that if you go in and you really hack away at the current Android 15 developer previews, there is some additional functionality, like window snapping is going to be coming to the Android desktop mode. Could be nice. It would be lovely if Samsung could finally kick Google's butt into making this a more core part of the operating system. But the other breaking news bit, and I'm sorry to be whiplash changing subjects on us like this.
No, please.
It was just announced this afternoon. This one was just announced in between when we talked about setting up the show.
Yep.
Windows Recall is being shelved. It is not launching with Copilot Plus when laptops ship. Microsoft has officially confirmed they are pulling it from that initial launch of devices, and that it will be coming to Windows Insider preview builds sometime in the coming weeks. So after the disastrous report that just got published about how Microsoft was incredibly negligent with Windows security, and it caused numerous issues with government agencies,
that run
and
yeah,
and that there's been so much pushback and so much scrutiny and criticism over how Windows Recall is being presented. This was the only acceptable outcome.
It was absolutely not even not protected. The fact that it was snapping being so much data and leaving it sitting there. I forgot who it was, but somebody showed how easy it was to hack into it. Like
No. Oh, no. Someone didn't show how easy it was to hack into it.
Mm-hmm.
2 Microsoft engineers on TikTok replied to a comment they got where someone said, "There's no possible way Recall is working this quickly using my computer's GPU." And those 2 Microsoft engineers said, "Oh, no. It's not using the GPU. It's using this thing called an NPU. And let's show you how quickly this can work. I'm going to open up go to user, and open the app data folder. And as you can see, all of your Recall information is just stored in an unencrypted database here in your app data folder." And it took them roughly 27 seconds of hacking the mainframe to click on folders to go directly to where all that Recall data lived.
That's even worse than what I saw. Mine was a different conversation, but no, look.
That's what Recall was shown to us, and I had a whole bunch of people who was like, "Well, it's going to be more secure than that," and you're like, "Well, Microsoft better show us that PDQ, because boy howdy, their own engineers made this look like total clown shoes."
Look, I think so. On the one end side of it, I'm very happy to see at least that it has been shelved. But on the other side, it needs a lot more work and a lot more protection before it's rolled out. Because the reality of the matter is, it was too. Oh, it's just too hastily, half baked. It's standard Microsoft operating procedure here. It's really like release it and fix it with updates. Like, it's just such a bad. They would have learned.
It felt like a panic. We've said this before, and I'm just repeating myself now. It felt like a panic response that they needed to impress shareholders.
Oh no, of course. They have to. At the end of the day, they have to, because they saw how many people were jumping on the bandwagon. It wasn't just a couple of people writing "Dear Microsoft." By the way, that was a great note from Microsoft I saw today. on Threads. I was like, I rarely go on Threads, but when I did go in there, and the first thing that comes out is, "Dear."
I'm so tired of just am I going to talk to a $1 trillion corporation? You guys are making some really bad decisions here. I think it's time I just directly communicate.
Where you get a pen and paper. Have you ever seen the Tonight Show?
No, I did one. Who was I haven't done one of those in years, but I think I did one for Motorola back in the day.
Yeah,
Dear Moto.
When
Microsoft needs 4 of those videos right now.
I played that. That was the playback video. You sitting at a desk with a pen and "Dear Microsoft." So yeah. No,
I'm so tired of just trying to make it sound like everything's hunky dory. There are so many palpable consumer concerns. There are so many
areas, so much
potentially disastrous pitfalls in those gray areas, and you're like, I do not trust that our industry right now has the vision or the executive leadership to navigate us through those gray areas. I think we're going to bumble our way through every single foreseeable problem. Yeah. And I don't think any company What's so frustrating is because like you've had these experiences with me too. We've met so many incredible and talented and dedicated and passionate software developers and engineers who could absolutely run wild fixing these kinds of issues before they become issues, but that is not what these massive corporations are tasking their employees to do. And that's why I increasingly have withering confidence in what should be the most consistent players in the field right now. The biggest tech companies should be really conservative. And instead, they're all still trying to play this stupid game of like, oh, we're plucky and dynamic and disruptive. And you're like, Microsoft should stop that. Apple should stop that. Google should really stop that because we need you to be the foundations you claim you are.
Exactly. And this is just with everything that's been talked about and announced. I mean, we're literally within a week from hardware starting to ship to people. So they waited very much at the last second. And my worry is a lot of these PCs that they were talking about already have been flashed. They're sitting at warehouses.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to end up being an update that you have to do right away.
The guy who got his Galaxy book early? There's someone on Reddit who has an X Elite. They accidentally sent it to him like a week early, and he was like, well, I guess I'll tell you everything I can about it. Apparently, it needs a lot of updates, and it's pulling like Geekbench scores that are like half what this chip should be capable of. It is not a good look for getting something early, but apparently he has been able to dig into.
So are you saying Samsung's doing the same thing they do on their smartphones onto their X Elite? They're throttling.
I believe when I believe when you go to set up your system. This is so stupid. This is another thing that really frustrates me with Windows is I'm setting up all these mini PCs and I go through this whole setup process and it scans the internet and it says it's looking for updates.
Yeah.
And you would think after I'm done with the setup process, it will have found updates and everything would be fine.
Yeah.
But what happens every single time I go through that whole process, I get into Windows. I go, okay, cool. Let me go into settings and check to see if there are updates. And then there are multiple other updates that usually require 2 or 3 reboots to get through all of that process. And then now because Microsoft, and I like that they're separating out some components. It's a little like Google in how they manage. You don't have to wait for a whole OTA. If it's a little component, they can update through the stupid Microsoft store. But if you're like me, you almost never use that Microsoft store. So then you also have to go in between your operating system updates, your additional updates, your driver updates, then go to the Microsoft store and see what apps need to be updated there. And invariably, I will go through at least 2 reboots for the operating system, go and install components through the Microsoft store, and then go back to Windows settings and find yet another update that needs to be installed there.
They absolutely stage them, which is the one thing that drives me crazy. If you haven't updated for a certain amount of time, create a massive update that handles a certain thing. Like, why do we have? Why is it still left after? Let's say, obviously we don't.
We joke about
you turn off your PC for a month, and suddenly now you have like 30 updates. Why? Because they're all small, tiny ones that have to be done in order.
Sure, I get it. Whatever. We joke about whether or not Pixels believe you. Like I'll open up my Pixel and say, look for updates. And it goes, no, I'm totally up to date. And then I'll hit the button again and it'll go, oh, you meant really look. And then an update will pop up. Microsoft is like that, but with like 3 reboots in between before you finally get to the finished update. It's funny that
you mentioned the Microsoft store because I actually never opened that thing. And I probably have a whole bunch of updates on my PC. I probably don't even care because it's mostly apps and stuff. But I mean, the reality is the process of updating, and I'm sure, look, all of the the X Elite with Copilot and all of those PCs that are going to come out right now. A lot of the people that are going to be getting them, there is absolutely mass amount of day one updates that we're going to need to update, and it is going to be a learning process, a fine tuning process, because what we are getting right now is a new generation of PCs, a new generation of Windows on ARM computing that has been building up for years for us. We haven't really fully gotten the exposure to it because, again, Microsoft releases one SKU that has the Pro 9 5G, but other than that, nobody else hears about it. The SQ3,
Yeah.
like last time we looked at that, was 2 years ago. But the reality is, X Elite is legit. X Elite is going to disrupt. I think Microsoft and Qualcomm have an amazing partnership on this at this point, and I think we are going to basically be the beneficiaries of this conversation. We
Yeah.
need to start seeing this hardware. I'm worried about the Samsung conversation and what you said with the whole Geekbench situation, because this is
No,
typical to what we
I'm not.
see.
I would normally be the guy talking mad trash about Samsung. I really do believe
Mhm.
this system, in being accidentally shipped early, is just in a completely unfinished
Oh, absolutely.
update
Yeah,
state
the software is
because
not
it
even,
can't complete it. Yeah, it can't complete the proper setup
and the
it
server is
should
not
have
even
gone through.
pushing all the updates that it needs.
Exactly.
They have a time
I
window.
actually really do believe that of all the systems, once you get the full clock speed of the 84 variant of that X Elite, the Samsung is probably going to benchmark the highest. I believe they're the only one selling that config.
They are
It's
only one selling it, but I'm worried with the way they set it up with only 16 gigs of RAM that it's going to be limited by the other component. Remember, you're only as weak,
sure.
as strong as your weakest link. And the reality
Yeah.
is, there is no 32 gig configuration. There is no 64. They're pushing a lot of power, but I feel like it's almost like it's just going to be bottlenecked by what you
Well,
can run.
I think this will be a machine that wind sprints through singular tasks better than anything else we've seen on battery life. I don't
I agree.
believe with the integration of these MPU services in
Mhm.
Windows, I don't believe it's going to be the strongest multitasking system. But I'm very confident that Samsung is going to deliver the clock speed on that 84 variant. The guess people have is right now on this guy's system on Reddit, it's like capped at 2 gigahertz. But we know that this is a chip that can scale to like
3.8.
3.5 or 3.8.
Yeah.
So he's losing an entire gigahertz of instructions. That should be at least a 30% increase if we're just doing a one-to-one, but computers don't work exactly linearly like
No, no,
that
I'm
when we're
with
trying
you.
to figure out workload and performance. So I'm actually not too concerned about that. To your point, I think you're correct in that the system will be hobbled, and there
Mhm.
is an element of this that I do believe is planned obsolescence because of this fixation that we have on language learning models and NPUs. I'm even angrier at our tech brethren that made fun of phones like the OnePlus 12 with the 24 gigabytes of RAM variant.
Oh
Because
man.
we were saying it at the end of last year. I don't think AI is a big deal, but if you think AI is the thing that's
We
going to
talked
move,
to what's it called? We talked directly to MediaTek, and we
MediaTek,
sat down. That was exactly the biggest thing that we were worried
yeah,
about. You talk AI, you talk models, you talk about performance, but the reality of the
you
matter is,
need the RAM. And
yeah,
instead,
and it has to be
look,
fast RAM. It can't be
yeah,
you can't be running on old school the way we had it before. This is always the number one problem. If you've ever built a PC, if you've ever worked with any PCs for the last God knows how many years, 10, 12, 15 years,
yeah,
you know that doubling the amount of RAM you have on that computer boosts your performance faster than trying to change the processor on that computer, because
oh
you're
yeah,
able to run more. It's a bigger playground, faster access to data. Your random access memory is literally where things reside. This is where your programs
yeah.
run. You have to have good RAM. 16 to me is such a crippling experience. And there's so many of the X Elites, like not the Plus, the X Elites that are selling at
Yeah,
16 gigs.
16s. Yeah.
32 needs to be the standard. 32 has
16
to be,
gigabytes of RAM was just a good experience on Windows 11 before.
especially when they're
And
touting gaming, editing, production stuff.
it's going to be so
That,
lean
yeah.
unpacking models now on 16 gig. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
I don't believe it's going to be as bad as Windows Vista,
No,
where
no.
hardware was rated
Oh,
for Vista that was
oh.
absolutely not
Mm.
capable of running Vista well. I
Oh my
don't think it's
God.
going to be
Dumpster fire
that
those
bad.
Vista.
But think of
Yeah.
how many people you know who might be interested in a nicer, new, better battery life Windows laptop.
Oh,
And
dude,
for
absolutely.
some reason, we can't get this message through to consumers about how to plan ahead or buy up. They always try to shop for whatever the best sale is on the lowest possible base model configuration.
Yeah.
And how many people are going to end up with 2 to 3 year old laptops in like 2027 that, man, they're really going to be struggling with only 16 gigs of RAM. And a laptop should be a 3 to 5 year purchase. It shouldn't be a flip it every year because of these types of things. But so many of these companies are starting out at 16 because 16 used to be good before we started tackling on more of this Copilot stuff.
I'll say that 16 in general is, because this is where the fallacy kind of starts coming in here. It's the, you show them the bells and whistles, you show them the things you could do on the best configuration of this model, but then you're introducing them and selling them a model that doesn't have enough system resources to run it at that smoothness and all the experiences. Mind you, I don't think everybody that's buying a Copilot PC is buying it because they're going to start, photoshopping, rendering, and producing content. They're buying it because it's going to have a great battery life. It's going to do everything they want it to do. It's going to be fast, and it's going to be lightweight, and it's going to be
But throw a couple tabs open.
It will have fans, but yeah,
it'll have fans. But again,
it'll be quiet.
It should be pretty quiet. But open up Chrome, fire up a couple tabs, and then go and hit your Copilot button while you try to edit a video in the Windows Photo app. And now you're using 2 different apps with MPUs that require models that RAM is going to be necessary for those models. And you've got Chrome, which is just eating RAM.
Oh, absolutely. Like 500 to
doing nothing.
No, absolutely. Per tab.
So
yeah,
already it is very conceivable that someone, because you ask someone like, I've got like an aunt, and if I ask her like, well, what kind of advanced multitasking or what kind of heavy load lifting do you do on your school PC? And she just blink at me. But if I said, do you have lots of programs open at the same time? It would be very easy for her to articulate the kind of workload she has at her school.
Yeah.
So that's the problem is, it used to be, you can't survive on a Windows machine with 8 gigs of RAM. You've got to step up to 16. And we've done a good enough job drilling that idea of RAM into more people's brains that now when they see the base model config at 16, someone who had that little bit of knowledge is, well, that's pretty good. And right now, they are unprepared. If they want to use and try the features that this laptop is being sold on, they're unprepared for what the system hit to those resources is really going to be.
Yeah, the development of the software, because their desktops run different experiences, and they do typically. I mean, look, we need to start seeing actually devices shipping out. We need to see how this is, I guess, received. Not just the techies. I'm talking about the general consumers that are going to start looking at these PCs at Best Buy. They're going to look at it online. They're going to look at it on Amazon, so on. Start buying these or even at Costco. It seems like Costco is jumping in on the bandwagon with that. I'm buying mine from them. So the experience is going to be very. One of the reasons I even went with the Costco configuration is because ASUS's version of the laptop that I got only sold for 16 gigabytes on their site. But when you go over on Costco, because Costco
32, baby,
they doubled up the RAM for the same price. Yeah. And I'm like, but that's how it should have been. That's how it should have been for ASUS's site. So, like I said, it's going to be a very interesting experience. I'm very excited to get my hands on this. I am really kicking myself right now because I have a feeling they're not going to ship it on time, or meaning they're not going to ship it for it to get to me on the 18th. They're going to ship it on the 18th, and then probably 2 or 3 or whatever days later, it's just going to be a nightmare for me of trying to get this thing before while I'm jumping around, because I'm also June, July is going to be very busy, and I have, like, if nothing else, there's a few more trips coming up before the month is over. Yeah, not one, a few. So yeah.
So I just got yesterday a $2,500 charge on my Visa. So I hope that means something.
Well, I mean, hey, wait, today's the 13th, right? We're 5 days away, my friend. If they're not preparing it and getting it to go now, like, I would seriously question.
I'm like anxiously checking my shipping estimates. But
I know. Sorry, yeah.
while we still have like
Of course.
a couple minutes left here,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah,
can still talk, man, I Marilyn jumped into the chat and was like, "Hey, I finally made it to one." He was like, "Marilyn, this is the crankiest I think we've ever been. It has been a week. I would love to hear some thoughts on this Honor 200 Pro, because I feel like that will be at least a bit of a tone shift from Juan is pissed off at how stupid people are that they don't understand my Threads video, and I hate everything right now.
No, you don't hate everything. You're frustrated with the way things are, and it is frustrating to see things in 2024 still being handled this way, which is a weird, like you again, like you said,
like it should have gotten better by now.
It should be better, but like no, we're still playing in play yard rules. You know, it's the tough kid on the yard. But no, changing the conversation as you said. So Honor on I want to say Tuesday. I could be wrong. I can't remember. Today is what, Thursday? Yeah, 2 days ago. Sorry, I just had like I'm
all good.
Like
it's been that kind of week.
I didn't refresh my
spinning beach ball right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I saw it. It was colorful.
So I've had the opportunity to play with this phone for the last few weeks, and boy howdy, did they just, like, they brought the Magic series. This isn't a Magic, by the way. This is the Honor 200 Pro, because I kept calling it the Honor Magic 200 Pro, but it's not a Magic series. There's the Magic series, and then there is obviously the I want to say the more affordable version. Now, it is running the 8S Gen 3, which I'm still having a hard time categorizing as a processor. It's a flagship experience processor, but I don't really call it the flagship of 2024, because the 8 Gen 3 is the flagship of 2024. The 8S Gen 3 is the more affordable version of the 8 Gen 3, a la 8 Gen 2, but more like an 8 Gen 2 Plus kind of a situation for me. It's like, I don't know how to... I even posted the question over on X, like asking us, like, what do you consider the 8S Gen 3? Do you consider this as a flagship? Because Honor isn't going to be the last company to use this SoC. We're going to see it come up from many other companies. And the reality at the end of the day, the combination of the 8S Gen 3, the 5200 milliampere battery, the 100-watt charging, the beautiful display, the 120 hertz refresh rate, the cameras on this device, the cameras, my friend. Like, seriously, Honor's been knocking it out. I had a hard time trying to take bad pictures with that phone. I'm talking front-facing, rear-facing camera, general lighting and I had the opportunity to. So one day when I was in London, it was a beautiful sunny day, and I like to call this the HDR experience, right? Where such bright colors are in front of you, like it's just beautiful. It's things that pop out of your. So that was great, but the next day it was really cloudy, standard UK weather, but it was still able to deliver really good images. The portrait functionality, which is again what their main focus on this device is. They're using a dual 50 megapixel cameras, main and telephoto. The ultra wide is not getting all the love. I'll say that right now. This is a weird experience where I feel like a lot more companies now are starting to shift away from the ultra wide experience. They're focusing more on the telephoto. Again, kudos. I love that. I love telephoto. If you want that bokeh, if you want those colors.
If I have to make a compromise, now I've shifted. Now I'm a little better with the idea of compromising on the ultra wide.
Absolutely. And as so the focus here is absolutely great. The cameras that we have on the front, they went back to true, face unlock. They're using fingerprint sensor. Yeah. There's just so much to love about this phone, and the design is very unique. Let's see. Okay, will Sony love it? No, it's too reflective. Come on, Sony. Oh, here we are. There we go.
There you go.
So the design that we have here is beautiful. It's a white, almost like a moon textured waves a little bit, and they have a few colors coming up for it. And I'll say this, I was super excited to get my hands on it, and I'm still very happy with it. There's a few things I wish they had done correct, like adding video output. That would have been nice. Wireless projection is the only way to get the Magic UI desktop experience, and that means it has to be running wireless on a display. You have that lag. It's a little bit more delayed. It's nice to have, but I wish it would have been wired. We have stereo speakers. But here's something that I feel like a lot of, and I don't want to say Chinese brands, like it's interesting. We don't get eSIMs on a lot of the Chinese brands that go international. We typically get only SIM. Here they did the 2 SIM cards or 1 SIM and 1 eSIM. You can flip it over. And it's just so much easier to do this. Like I love the fact that
Nice.
we need to have international variants of any devices launched that are not China only. They should have eSIM. At this time and age in 2024, the eSIM should be the NFC of the conversation. If you're okay with having NFC because you want to make payments, well, make sure people can travel and be able to download an eSIM and not have to go buy a local SIM in another country. Because that's what ends up happening where, let's say if I'm traveling with my Find X7 Ultra, the Find X7 Ultra needs to have a SIM card in it. It won't work without it.
Yeah.
So I end up basically tethering it to another phone that has an eSIM function so I can get data.
It's messy.
So very happy with it. I posted a few images on Instagram as well as on X and on Threads, just sharing some of the capabilities, of course, some of the portrait functionalities. And I have to say, for the £700 starting price on the Pro side, it is well worth it. I think Honor has a hit. If you've never considered buying an Honor smartphone or you haven't looked at it.
Because I've only really been like in the last couple years of Honor phones, the only one I've played with have been the Magic series. I thought this was going to be a much sort of a much lower tier, like more mid-rangery kind of phone.
Originally, when I first heard about it,
yeah. So then I saw it's like
you have a standard and a light, which are more the mid-range and budget side.
But the Pro actually seems to mean a bit bigger a change than sometimes we get a Pro device and like, this is kind of the same thing as the regular version. But yeah, seeing that come in at around that 700, is it like close to 800 euro?
So it's
in the EU,
the way they put it in, I think it was £699. So it's probably close to, I would say probably close to 800. Yeah, it would be basically $799. They usually add about another 50 to 100.
But it seems like it's not too far. So I guess like I always try to like put this up against, like, say you had an iPhone 15 Plus.
Okay.
It would seem to me that minus something like video out through the USB-C, this is a really good competitor for a 900 euro iPhone 15 Plus.
Oh, right? I was going to say even an S24 Plus. Like a really
right. Good, so I mean, like to me, that is a much closer fight, because you would be able to say something like, well, your Galaxy S24 is going to have, well, it would have an Exynos in the EU, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know what? That actually might make a bigger difference. But you would have DeX. You would have a productivity feature that you can only get on Samsung, where Honor makes a great desktop mode, but it's not on this phone at close to 800 euros. Like that's a closer fight. But I look at like what the iPhone offers for around €1,000 is really not that competitive, and that's where I think we've seen some of the really excitement work being done by Oppo. Some of the phones from Xiaomi competing very well in this kind of like high performance for price idea. And now Honor
coming back into the game as well. They're launching it.
But so like Realme's brand kind of lives that, but Honor dropping a tier below the Magic is introducing a price to performance that looks a little more like a OnePlus. It's like, I am so close to this Galaxy experience. I'm ahead of this iPhone experience, and I'm €100 less than what those phones, or maybe even €200 less, depending on storage configurations. So that to me is like, that's where this phone kind of took me by surprise in the conversation, because I went in just looking it up and seeing the announcements on it, expecting like a Vivo V series, right? No. A nice phone, a very nice phone, but a decidedly mid-ranger. This is now on that border between upper-level mid-ranger and entry premium. It's kind of right in the middle there.
No, but I think this is where the 8S Gen 3 is going to live. I feel like whoever decides to use the 8S Gen 3 is going to be around that ballpark. It's not a mid-range processor. It's not the 7 series. We have the 7 Gen 3. The 8S Gen 3 is truly an 8 Gen 2 Plus to me. That's how I like to look at it, because for the lack of a better term, it's like continuing the 8, but they wanted to use the 8 Gen 3 title in there so that it catches the same. You know what I mean? It's like the whole naming part.
I know.
It's a naming part. It's a great processor. It does, from a gaming standpoint, from a performance standpoint, you will not be able to tell the difference unless you Geekbench score it and you're truly putting it head to head with an Gen 3. You won't notice it, and it performs better on power consumption because it doesn't draw as much. So
Yeah,
we're looking at a
because
lot of
it's closer to the Gen 2. Yeah,
exactly. So
yeah, fair.
it's the things that I think we appreciate where we're still going to see Gen 3s. I don't think this means that Gen 3 is not going to show up anymore, but it's going to make more sense to the Honor devices like we're looking at right now. I'm pretty sure we're going to see something probably from Xiaomi at some point. I mean, again, we'll see something from Oppo. We'll see something from, I don't know if OnePlus does. We'll have to see. I think the OnePlus likes to stick to the full numbers on most of their releases either way.
Yeah,
unless maybe the Nord or something. But even Nord usually goes MediaTek. But long story is, it's an exciting combination. If you are looking to import this into the US, full compatibility on T-Mobile, at least in the Los Angeles area, for their 5G technology. I was clocking in 700, 800 megabits down. I was very happy with it. There is no issues with this. Yeah, no, Wi-Fi compatibility as well. Just all of the things that you imagine getting there. And because they're running Magic OS 8 on this, we had the long issue that I've always had with this with Magic OS was you couldn't swipe down to open notification, and now that's built in. Expandable widgets, customization, all the things in there. Check out the video. I did a whole dedicated video for them. I kind of gave out half of the things in there, but just if anything else, let me know what you guys think of those pictures that I'm sharing in that video, because those are from, like, again, just candid shots to more on-purpose shots, trying to focus on shots. There was that light tunnel in the metro in the UK at King's Cross. I didn't even know existed till I looked it up, and it took me about 5 to 6 minutes to be able to get that one good shot there because of the lighting and effect and people passing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good things. It is surprising and worth checking out if you're in the market for something around that price point, £700 or 800 700 or 800 pounds, euros. Sorry. Honor's knocking it out, and makes you wonder, what they're going to do with their Magic series, with the next series, if they're doing this at this price point. So excited.
I know that there is no official relationship or tether to Huawei anymore.
No.
But when you see what the Pura is capable of, I have to hope that
translates at some point.
Yeah, that Honor is maybe able to emulate some of that.
So the design of
the back next year.
So the Honor 200 Pro, if you had to look at it and compare it to the Pura, they both have that oval shaped camera stack on the back, but there is no protruding mechanical lens on this one.
Sure.
I really debated picking up a Pura because it was finally available.
Yeah.
But I unfortunately the Asus PC is taking a massive dent into my budget right now. Although it's always hard when you have to dedicate money for hardware, and you have to kind of pick and choose what you could buy. So yeah, for me, I think what we're seeing here is a good move. This is the first series number that we've seen outside of China. This was actually, by the way, launched in China not even 3 weeks ago, maybe not even.
Yeah.
Right after I was in Dubai for the F series from Poco. I think the week after that was Honor's launch in China, and then again this week we're now global. That whole international local is becoming closer and closer, which is good. It keeps the conversation fresh, and we don't have to, basically by the time it's released globally, everybody like, well, we already saw all the videos, we know everything we need to know. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So, it is nice. So check it out. Let me know what you guys think of the video. It's on the main channel, tkbay, and there's more stuff coming up. I can't talk about that yet, but next there is a potential of a double whammy next week.
Ooh.
Yeah, one kind of
cryptic.
Very, very recently, based on some conversations I've had, and so I'm hoping things kind of materialize. At least there's one, but it could potentially be two. And we'll have to figure out how, we'll see. I think by next week when we talk, we'll have way more to talk about. Hopefully we can work out the whole situation. But I know we're hitting we've kind of getting close to our 1.5 hour kind of mark there. But I was going to ask, what's coming up with you? What's going on for the rest of the week this week? I know it's still Thursday. We still have 3 beautiful glorious days.
Yeah, I know, man. And my dad's going to be in town too, which is going to be awesome to have. a double daddy day. There, what can I talk about?
Wow.
So my voice has only been strong enough over the last couple days to start shooting videos again. So I've been writing. I've got like scripts I'm way behind on, but I'm finally finishing up that look at the Acer because I really wanted to check out the
laptop,
Acer. Right? Yeah, the Acer laptop with the Core Ultra 7 before we get X Elite, because that was the chip that Qualcomm was really comparing a lot of their X Elite stuff again. So I'm hoping that that'll be out early next week, and then I'll be getting my Surface immediately to kind of start jumping into those kinds of comparisons and those kinds of conversations. And
I'm sorry about the fact that you're not going to be able to make that video disabling Copilot. I know.
I said it, and Microsoft was like, "No, we're not going to let you do that video after all." And you're like,
"Oh, the Dear John letter. Come on, you knew they were going to do it." They're like, "Okay, he put it in writing. It's on Threads. It's legit."
So I still have audio stuff that I can't show on my desk, but I am getting to spend a little quality time going back into some really nice premium and boutique earbuds. I've got a DAC that is really rocking my socks right now, and I can't say more than that. But I did get to go back. These were the CCA Rhapsody. They're little IEMs from CCA, the cousin brand to KZ, and they're the ones that have. You're never going to be able to see this. They have four little pin tools here on the side of the IEM casing.
I can kind of see it
a little closer.
Yeah, I can kind of
right about there.
There, yeah.
And you have to get like a SIM card ejector tool to click these little switches. But there are 4 individual switches that influence different parts of the EQ. And each switch can be operated independently. So you really have like 16 different tuning profiles in one. You can have all 4 switches on. You can have all 4 switches off. You can go from left to right with low frequency to high frequency. This is an incredibly difficult IEM to review because you've got to pull them out of your ears and flick little switches and then put them back in your ears and like, do I really hear the differences? Oh, the bass got a little bassier, and pull them out of my ears again, and let's see what happens to the highs. It took a while to listen at these things for enough time for me to make an opinion on them. But they've been out for a little while. They've been out for about a month or 2 months now, I think. And so I'm finally going to be able to kind of share some thoughts on some earbuds again. I've just been way off because of all those ear infections. I've had to turn down a lot of headphone and earbud stuff just because it's
hard doing them back to back. You're right.
Like the biology of it is just intensely gross.
Yeah. No. Okay. So when you're thinking, so first, is that like something for the rest of during the weekend or something?
I don't know if that'll make it out this week. I think that's going to end up being fodder for next week. I might be able to also do just a quick follow-up video. If I do get it out early, it'll probably be tomorrow. Just some follow-up thoughts on using the Vivo X100 Pro as my main B-roll camera.
Yeah.
It's my main go-to, but there has been something of recent on one of the previous OS updates that has kind of bugged me on how the cameras work. So I'll have like it's in the way that I would say like, hey, this has actually been one of the best mobile production cameras I've ever used. I really hope Vivo can fix this because it's honestly making my life more difficult than it needs to in how the app handles certain situations. So if I do get that out, that'll be out tomorrow. And then early into next week, it's go laptop time. And I think we're all ready to finally start using this stuff and not just speculating on what Windows on ARM is going to do.
No, I'm with you. I did get the Geekom A8, the one that you just reviewed not that long ago in. Unfortunately, I don't have time for it in the next few weeks.
Dude, you're gonna dig that. That mini PC is such a monster.
I don't.
It is insane.
I so
what that thing can do.
I just don't have enough time. So I did let them know ahead of time. I said, look, because it took them a long time to get to me. I was supposed to get it literally the week after you posted your video, but it's been in that process of shipping and whatever, however long it was going through. I don't know what it was. And I almost messaged them and I was like, guys, don't worry about it anymore. I think this is, if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. And they're like, no, we just shipped it. So we're like, okay, so the A8 is here. I'll hopefully get into that as soon as I'm getting through some of the backlog that's going on my side as well, because I'm in the same boat. Although things are jumping up, I have one more video posted that's guaranteed for this week, and that's a few accessories for my Tesla. The guys over at Yeslac sent me a beautiful carbon fiber spoiler and some good new wheel covers. I always love customizing, so really nice. Looks really good with the whole blacked out situation.
Nice.
And Omar is actually helping me out, which is really...
That's great.
I'm excited for that part. Like, this has been...
Yeah, it's a family business.
This is the first summer where we're going to start seeing more of his work in my work, specifically what you were talking about, the X100 Pro, because we're using that for a lot more of the e-bike and the scooter videos that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have him like ride with me, and then I'll have him go like ahead of me by like a couple minutes, and then stop and get a lot of those shots of like the more not aerial, but like more open space shots, as opposed to some of the other ones. We're trying to diversify. And then he's helping test out some of the other devices as well that I can't talk about right now. It's like,
it's good times.
It's fun. So, so hopefully a lot of good things and a lot of surprises. I'm sure next week when we talk, we'll cover more. I feel like my voice is starting to get hit.
Yeah, you just crashed. So let's wrap this up. Hey, folks, have an amazing week.
Absolutely. Be safe. Stay safe. Thank you very much for hanging us here, listening to us. The audio version of the podcast hopefully will be out within the next day or so. Please make sure to hit that like, subscribe to the channel if you're new and you're listening and you find these conversations enticing. And if you have any questions, please connect with us. Our socials and links and everything will be there. Please check out Juan's Patreon. Hey,
or the Mastodon too. I am not spending time on threads these days.
And make sure to catch him on Mondays for the SGGQA, and make sure to ask him all the questions he has. So be safe, stay safe, and we'll see you guys next week.